Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to talk through some of my views on hand shape and orientation at the piano so that you don't become sore, so that you don't hurt yourself, of course, so that you can execute passages better or perhaps even at all, and so that you can utilize the so-called weaker fingers of the hand, 3, 4, 5, more healthily, more efficiently, even though I believe that finger strength in terms of being able to play loud or well at the piano is largely a myth, but that's kind of a whole different discussion, so that you can play larger chords and all different sorts of passages, hopefully more easily, and a bunch of other reasons too. So those are some of the reasons. And on this channel, I hope to share with you thoughts, strategies, methods, etc., often of my own creation that I hope will help you in your piano playing, hopefully even other areas of your life as well. So I don't actually know how many tips or ideas exactly I have here. I think I'm going to talk through some of the space that I like to keep inside of my hand, this idea of there is no thumb, playing with the very corner of the thumb, some of my views on some of the other fingers, whether fingers should be curved or flat or in the air, and also my view on your wrist and whether it should be higher or lower, and probably some other ideas as well. And as a brief disclaimer here, my general views on technique here, they are what's worked well for me and all of the pieces that I've played all of these years in developing a healthy technique for myself and in helping students of all ages, levels, and abilities over all these years. However, if somebody can play and get a consistently beautiful musical result and they're not getting sore, they're not hurting themselves, I honestly don't care how you go about utilizing technique. Like, you don't have to follow this as long as you can play healthily, beautifully, reliably. But this is what seems to work the best on average for most people, or at least for me and all of the students that I've worked with. So I think I'll start with this general idea. This is actually not the way that I was taught, but I like this idea of placing your hand over your knee gently, not like super hard, but just gently, and then there's like a natural little space here under the hand. I've heard of people saying like holding a ball or an egg or something. I find that this is likely the most similar to what I'm naturally doing. So again, not gripping the knee tightly, but just kind of gently putting your hand over your knee, and you're completely relaxed. And then this is roughly the shape that I would like to preserve at the piano. It's really not overly curved. I sometimes will see this, and this is actually, in my mind, just as tense as if you have your fingers way in the air. So we don't want this overly, even just looking at it, this does look unnatural, doesn't it? And we don't want like overextended fingers in the air. We also many times don't want completely straight fingers. There are some situations, actually quite a few, where I think that straight fingers are useful, but there's still a difference between straight like this and straight like this. This is not good. So if it were straight, it should still be straight and relaxed. And again, going back to this, you have hand cupped gently over the knee, and then you maintain loosely this structure. And so there is a little bit of space under the hand here. Maybe I can show you through this angle as well. Right, so something like this. It's not completely flat. It's not, fingers in the air or anything like that. It's not like this either. It's just this gentle little space here. And I really like this idea of there not being a thumb, so to speak. And by this, I mean that we're not trying to play by bending the thumb. I know that there are a lot of piano techniques where there is some grabbing. I will do it with very fast repeated notes, and I even have some colleagues that do this. I don't do this in my own playing except with very fast repeated notes, and or if I want like a very, very short staccatissimo, like super, super short sort of sound. So when I say there is no thumb, it's just when you're like walking down the street, what is your hand doing when it's at your side? What does your thumb look like? And sometimes I actually have to check this with students because it turns out that, their thumb maybe naturally is a little bit bent. That's totally fine, of course. My thumb happens to look like this, apparently. So it's fairly straight, but it's not like overextended or anything either. And so this is what I want my thumb to look like at the piano. Like the thumb is just your arm. There's no extra like, oh, let me try to do this or, play in this way or come down from above. Rather, it's playing with very small rotation of the forearm much of the time. Maybe like a tiny little bit of finger articulation, but it's quite negligible. And so if I'm playing with it, it's typically not that I'm going like this. I know I'm mainly talking about hand shape and orientation, so I probably won't talk extensively about the actual playing, but just to give you a general idea, I'm not going like this. It's probably more of like a tiny little forearm rotation, maybe a tiny bit of finger articulation. So so this is what I mean by there is no thumb. I think a lot of the time students will go like this, or not only the other fingers, but also bending of the thumb. But really it's just this nice loose, hand just totally relaxed, and the thumb is straight and relaxed. And when I say straight and relaxed, I mean that it's just the same as when you're not doing anything, essentially, just like when you're walking down the street. Anyway, so I am a big fan of playing with the very corner of the thumb. And I actually don't know how weird exactly this is. I've definitely seen those that play even with like the knuckle of the thumb and so on. I find it serves us very well to play really with this part of the thumb, like the very corner here, instead of this, or instead of this. And as another note that I'll come back to probably in a little bit, I am many times very willing to play with the very corner of the key as well too. So instead of playing like all the way over here or like way up here or something, I'm usually going to be on the edge of the key. And especially if the chords are larger, I will even play on the very corner of the key so that I can reach further. So anyway, I may come back to this more in a little bit, but in any case, I am playing with this, lower left hand corner of the thumb or so. My other fingers, the other fingers, they have these two joints here. And again, I'm not overly curved either. When I'm playing, these are typically not collapsing down. Now, believe it or not, I do not have super, super strong views on whether, even with this relaxed hand shape, you must never ever collapse like other areas here. I've seen piano teachers discuss this at great length in different Facebook groups and in online communities and so on. And a lot of people, their knuckles and joints and things, they're more flexible. And some teachers will say like, oh, you definitely can't do that. And you must, stand these up super, super straight. My general thinking is that everybody's hand is different. And I think it is nice if these are a little bit more firm, but I don't think it's an absolute necessity after having worked with many students over the years. Some people's hands are honestly just more flexible overall, and so we kind of test it. Sometimes I may ask students to stand up their fingers a bit more and see if there can be a little bit more of a structure here and here. But if they're collapsing somewhat, I don't think it's the end of the world. And I think that we would then see, do they feel any pain? If not, of course, good. Are they able to execute consistently? Great. Are they able to play musically? Great. And so I just kind of go down the little checklist there. I also have this idea of the middle three fingers being kind of perpendicular to the fall board here. And this is partially about this general hand orientation. So this is, I don't know that everything's like an exact 90-degree angle or anything like that, but that means that these three, they're roughly perpendicular to this. They're not facing off to the side or anything. And partially because of this, the thumb is not like this. So this is what we want to avoid. And I call this like a thumb-oriented approach. And if you do this, it forces you many times to isolate the fourth. And I mean, you could still be relaxed in the arm here, but man, it's way easier to isolate the fourth and fifth fingers alone. Even just looking at this it doesn't look too healthy, right? Even if you were to relax your arm weight onto the fourth finger, this is still like a very unnatural orientation. And so this may aggravate the ulnar nerve here, and that runs down to your elbow and so on. So I think what's much healthier is this type of orientation. Again, thumb at the very corner, these three fingers like perpendicular-ish to the fall board, and the fifth finger kind of looking like that as a result of these three fingers being roughly perpendicular. And so this is the overall orientation I like to preserve. And without talking too much about the actual, different wrist and forearm techniques for playing, like this way, instead of playing like I could use finger strength, but that's not healthy at all. So instead, with this orientation, let's say I have a smaller hand position here. Like I'm able to drop my arm weight into these fingers and transfer the weight much more easily because my fingers are not like this. And I'll show you also from this angle as well. I'm doing kind of like a walking back and forth motion here. Not the main purpose of this video, but just as an aside. So instead of this, I am more oriented like this. And I'm keeping nice and relaxed here. Let's see, what else did I write? So I wrote, fingers shouldn't be overly curled. I think I already said that. They shouldn't be completely flat either, at least not initially, at least not most of the time. I don't think they should be in the air excessively either. So I talked about my holding and relaxing concept in other videos. Maybe I'll make a longer video about that soon. But when you're playing, let's say I play, and let's say we end this passage. I mean, this is obviously bad, so that I'm going to relax that. Let's say that my pinky is a little tense. It's holding down this key a little bit. I'm going to relax that. And if my fingers are like very overly curled, I'm going to relax that. Right. So this is like a little bit of this holding and relaxing practice. You hold the note where you are, and you relax the other fingers so that they go back to hopefully this naturally healthy hand shape and orientation that I'm talking through. And yeah, I think, again, this natural curvature is good. They're not overly curled, not overly straight. I know I'm being redundant, but actually, the research shows redundancy in different forms through the video. It'll help the concept to sink in. So hopefully this is helping to do that. And I do think that the fingers can be flatter in certain situations. The main ones that come to mind are black keys, or more usage of black keys, larger chords, and also if you're playing super legato, legatissimo, like, super, super connected. I can go through this more in detail, likely in another video, but for instance, if I'm playing like more black keys, compared to if I'm playing white keys, with this little space here, with this natural orientation, honestly, I'm not overly curled here. On the black keys, I may even be flatter. I also have very thin fingers, so this gives me more surface area so the fingers do not slip off. So believe it or not, it's even a little bit flatter on the black keys compared to on the white keys for me. But, really totally flat would be like that, right? So I still have this general shape here. And then on the black keys, looks kind of like, there's a space here just because I'm on the black keys, which are higher than the white keys. But I hope that this helps you to kind of see overall. And then if I'm playing a chord that's very large for me, well, I have no choice except to have the fingers straighter, right? Because if I bend the fingers, then I wouldn't be able to reach, I can't really reach this, but if I'm trying to do in like an 11th, or I'm doing a 10th and there's a bunch of other notes, my fingers have got to be flat. And maybe I'll make a shorter video on playing large chords just so that more people will find this information. But you can see that if I play a chord like this, let's say, I still think it's a good idea for the thumb to be playing on the corner, but I could afford to have my thumb even all the way over here, and that's fine. These 3 fingers are roughly perpendicular to the soundboard. Hopefully more of these examples are helping you guys, helping everybody that's watching. But let's say I play like an octave, right? Now I have a relatively larger hand, so I could still play it like this, but man, I like it so much more when my hand orientation is like this. And this is usually like a major shift for most students and most people, because so many people will play like this, so it's very hard to like voice this note and play it louder without just using your pinky strength. It's even if I relax my arm weight, it still doesn't feel great. And so like this is part of the reason I think why these keys are so long, right? So I can easily get my weight in the pinky here. It's better aligned with my arm and everything. These fingers are kind of like this. This thumb is playing with the corner. But what if I'm playing something like this? I mean, I have no choice. I've got to be at the very corner of the key, right? You think about if my thumb were like over here, this is starting to feel uncomfortable, right? So, if I play this, like I've got to be at the very, very, very corner of the key. If I bend my thumb, my reach is reduced. If I am on the other side of the key, well, my reach is reduced. Like the only way that I can reach, for instance, this F is by being at the very, very corner of the key. I don't suggest doing like these very, very huge stretching exercises unless you know what you're doing. I don't advocate doing stretching exercises to like increase the size of your hand. And in fact, this isn't a stretching exercise. It's more just showing you the limits of my reach for the purposes of example. I'm just saying, like, unless you're confident that you know what you're doing with holding and relaxing everything, it's probably good to seek the help of a teacher there. But yeah, so if you can play a large chord and you know how to like relax this, relax your wrist, relax your fingers, my thumb feels very, very relaxed now, then that's fine. Yeah, as you guys probably know, these videos are very largely unscripted. It's very hard to talk about parts of my physical methodology, in this case, the general hand shaping orientation, without touching upon other aspects, such as holding and relaxing. And I think that's good because everything is interrelated. And as you watch these different videos, the different examples will come back in different forms, and the concepts will help to sink in more as you see other examples, nuances, and contexts. And let's see if I've missed anything here. Okay, so in terms of general wrist position, again, I'd say it's roughly something like this. So it is, yeah, and I'll show you from another angle or two in a second. But yeah, something similar to this. It's not totally flat. Your wrist will never go below the level of the keys. It shouldn't be super high either. I think your bench should not, you should be sitting so that your forearms are like roughly parallel with the ground. You can adjust the bench up and down more if needed, but it shouldn't be like a great effort to get into this position. If you're reaching up here, we're going like this, then you should adjust the bench so that your forearms are roughly parallel with the floor. And I think that this would be a good space here. And so when I'm moving my wrist around in terms of my general hand shape, I will not drop below whatever this level is. I can move up, I can move side to side in the circles, I can do forearm rotation, but normally I will never drop it to like here or lower like this. And just because I mentioned it earlier, so in terms of using relatively flatter fingers, yes, I talked about like black keys, I talked about larger chords, and then also if you're playing super, super connected, yeah. That's a topic for a different video, but if you want to, I'd probably use pedal and such as normally, then we can talk about using more surface area of the hand and all of that sort of thing. So, but typically they will have that slight curvature like I was describing earlier in the video. So I think I covered everything. I hope that some of this helps. I would say the game changer for a lot of students Where the game changers are things like playing with the very corner of the thumb, having the 3 fingers in the middle more perpendicular to the soundboard. That one more time. Like not being like this, not bending the thumb, more like this, right? Corner of the thumb, often on the corner of the key. The larger that the chord is, the more important that this is. All right, hope that this is helpful in terms of general hand shape and orientation. Let me know if you have any questions, and please like, subscribe, let people know about the channel if you found this helpful. I'm looking forward to the next one.